but it didn't again rate very well at all. The Indian television industry is extremely strong in knowing what the audiences want. They execute it very well. The GEC channels, general entertainment channels, are pretty much very clear that the entire rating system is delivered by what people are watching at what point of time. So there is always a very, very strong inclination towards producing compelling television content. As a result of which they don't look at movies necessarily. They do buy movies and kind of crunch the windows, but at the end of the day, television works extremely independent of movie. And lastly, I was also discussing this. There are television actors in India who do not want to join Bollywood at all, because the amount of television that is consumed in India, these guys work 365 days, and you have horror stories at times that one star fell off because he passed out, or he was working too hard. So that's the amount of television they do day in and day out. And they actually don't want to join Bollywood because there is enough money in television, completely.
So, Fadi, from the local view, obviously it's a little different than India. India's got this huge film market and a unique film market, as well as a strong TV. Here, though, we've only got 24 features a year on average that have come from the Arabic world, and therefore that changes the whole dynamics between film and TV. And you've also got a rather interesting play here, which is, because of Ramadan, you've got a completely different style of format where within 30 days you've got 30 episodes playing out. So it's almost binge viewing. It's not appointment, it's still appointment viewing, but it's almost getting to that point where you're engulfed for a considerable period of time. What can you tell us?
Engulfed has to do with the word gulf. When you say here and local, that's where the problems start. It's a very complicated situation. Here we are in Dubai. Here we are in the Emirates. But what is Arabic drama? Is there something called Arabic drama? Is there something called Arabic movies? Actually, I think one raison d'etre of this session is what everyone is saying in the West, that this is the golden age of television. And I say that this has been, is, and will continue to be the golden age of television in the region. And it's not by choice. There's no other age. It is the golden age because there is no movie industry. Now, my friends in the Egyptian movie industry might be angry because actually, to give them credit, the only viable, commercially viable movie industry is the Egyptian one, for different reasons. It will take a long time to go through why. Isn't there a Syrian, Lebanese, Kuwaiti industry? But to make a long story short, there's only an Egyptian movie industry. And that means 20 to 30 films per year. In the last few years, there was a dip due to the problems in Egypt. Now, since last year it has, or earlier this year, there's a comeback. Now, there's a comeback for drama quality in the Arab world. And this is where, unlike the fact where there is Egyptian drama only, in movies, there's only Egyptian movie. In TV drama, there is not one Arabic kind of drama. There is Egyptian, there is Syrian, there's Kuwaiti, there's Gulf, and some of them will travel across borders, but not everyone. The Egyptian will sure travel to all the region. The Syrian to a large degree. The imported Turkish drama also travels in the Syrian accent to the whole region. It is important to say a statement that the worst Arabic drama will bring more eyeballs than the best Western drama in the region. So that's a fact. That shows that sometimes relevance is what counts. It is a story that is relevant to viewers. You can have an affinity and engagement with the Western content, the best Western content, but it will not bring the eyeballs. One last thing is about the migration from film to the TV drama industry. And this happened mainly in Egypt because Egypt has a movie. So that's the only place where we can talk about migration. And it has made a significant difference because the directors of movies who started in the last 2 years, and the drama in Egypt has reinvented itself in the last 2 years, they brought a lot of cinematic views and production values to the television filmmaking. And stars who didn't have a lot of movies to do had to come to television to do a different kind of what they're used to. Having said that, in many cases, without going into examples, that migration of stars into TV drama didn't work. Some of the most famous stars in the movie didn't perform well in the last 2 years in drama in Egypt. So the migration isn't an easy ride, and it has mixed results sometimes.
Are you seeing that the effect of Western content and the internet is starting to help you and others produce better TV content?
I think we're learning one thing, that it's all about storytelling. It's not about how good is the lighting, which is in my eyes and I can't see any one of you. It's about storytelling. And the sophistication of Western content is motivating and challenging us to do a better storytelling. But in terms of some of the production values, for the Egyptian, even some of the Syrians or the Lebanese, they are on a relatively, we have to be relative here, they are on a high level of production. We as O3 have done some of the best. Here I have, to be biased to my own, to our own productions, we've done something that is very high in value, production value. Was it the best storytelling? Not always. So there is a room to improve definitely on that level.
Chris, obviously you can maybe help us with the American and the Western viewpoint to continue on that idea of storyline. And this is where I think it becomes really exciting is, you know, the storylines that I'm starting to see out of television are much more exciting than they were 10 years ago. The characters, the character arcs, the character depth is getting so much more intense. The way that we're viewing it is changing, and I'll come to that in a second. But beforehand, are you seeing the rise in quality that it's starting to touch on filmmaking or be at par with filmmaking?
Right. I think if I back up a second too, maybe it also add a little insight of, we just launched a TV division within the last 12 months, and also help to add a little perspective to our insight of why we did that. You know, we've done film for more than 7 years, and we looked at what's migrating in the industry, what's changing, and there was really two areas. One was the talent, the creative talent, and they had a strong desire to get involved with TV, and then the buyers. The buyers are changing. So if we stay with the sort of creative side, what you're seeing is people are loving being able to tell the stories that have rich character development, that they're able to, in a series, veer in and out of some kind of comedic to thriller to horror and back and forth again. We had, for us, I think it's really important that if you're a producer in the multiple different areas, when you establish these relationships, it's a necessity to be able to do both film and TV. We have a relationship with a very high-profile director, with Anton Fuqua, for example, and he came to us and said he wanted to do something in TV, and we had just launched the TV division, so it's one of these perfect avenues that you've got to be ahead with the challenging media landscape constantly changes, and you've got to be willing to work with the creative talent, because you see them really wanting to tell their stories in different ways, and I think that's what TV does.
Does that mean that the TV studios or the TV networks and the production companies are giving more flexibility to the filmmakers, and that in itself is dragging them over?
It's an interesting question. I think that the high-level talent is sort of demanding that. You see that with True Detective, and you see it with the talent wanting to do that. And for us it's interesting, us as producers, the second part I said, as the buyers are changing. And the buyers are, for us, it used to be you're selling all rights in film. Now we're thinking about how is the broadcaster, or more so the digital platforms. So as we need to be involved in TV for that area to continue to sell our other films, it's symbiotic with what the creative talent wants.
Now, we'll come back to the idea of storyline, and because to me, you know, the quality of production and story is really where this question's at. But one of the obvious influences and reasons for this, apart from, you know, studios, television networks being more flexible with their storylines and attracting these filmmakers, these actors in, not only with flexibility but with good money, is obviously the power of the online environment. You know, the video on demand, SVOD, Netflix, BitTorrent. But one of the first players in this market was BBC iPlayer. And, you know, from an English point of view, Alex, what was the impact of BBC iPlayer and how it started to change that appointment viewing?
I mean, I think it's a fantastic platform. First of all, it's incredibly easy to use and was very accessible. And basically, the deal is if you're in the UK, and presuming that you have a TV license, you are able to subscribe to iPlayer and download a large quantity of BBC content that would have been, you know, only able to be seen at the specific time onto computer, iPad, and so on. In terms of the habit of viewing, that was what opened things up massively. So all of a sudden, freedom and not paying a penny more, which is the big difference. So the BBC, which is a government-funded organisation, and together with the TV licence, basically allows all its audience to have better access to the content that they're already showing. Your favourite soap opera on Thursday night, you're not in, you need to watch it, you can catch it any time you like to afterwards, usually within a restrictive window. And the BBC then introduced that into all the contracts of content that they're commissioning and producing.
You've definitely got something in your favour there that helps you hold on to traditional broadcast, which is, it's not just one series, it's 10 series all playing out across multiple networks, and you have no more time to spend anywhere else. Obviously that's unique to hear, but you made a comment that I want to question, which is around video on demand is a companion or a secondary to that. Why couldn't we see a future where, you know, like we're starting to see with Netflix, where the VOD becomes the major play? Now, don't get me wrong, I still see broadcast as very, very valuable, particularly in a promotional stance. But Netflix is proving that we can just put it all on in one go, House of Cards or whatever, and now they're making movies and more TV shows. All in one go. Here you go, come and binge view. And that's obviously working for them. Why wouldn't that work here?
Monetizing it. I think Netflix's model is not to gain money. They have ambitions. I think I read yesterday about Saran, the CEO, saying that our aim is to have a new series every 2.5 weeks. 20 series, new first run per year. Instead of one House of Cards or Orange is the New Black, now they're launching tomorrow Marco Polo. Although at a cost of $10 million an episode, so they're throwing $90 million per day, I'm sure they're not making it back. So it is not about money because they are losing big time, and they don't care because their plan is different. Their plan is to conquer the world, go global in 5 years. At the end of the day, when there is a way to monetize that in the region, the answer will be simply yes. You will see first-run content online, and then it might migrate to television. But how far is this?
Ben, if I may just add in there a little bit, because this is a very interesting debate happening. To me, and I say it very vocally, Netflix is not an online player anymore. Netflix is a pay TV company. They are producing movies, they are producing series. They have bought 30% of the broadband space of Comcast, we all know it, and flouting the internet rules. So they have become a pay TV company. They are not an online company anymore. They have 33 million household subscribers in America, not at the cost of the cable guys. The 100 million cable guys have remained the way they are. I see the following trends happening, and that's something which is very interesting. Movies will not be watched online majorly by people the way they will watch series. the pressure is going to be on a lot of content owners and content developers to develop more and more series. And in spite of all the glut that we have of series, there is an unsatiable demand for series online because people want to watch at their own time, box sets, time shifted, and so on and so forth. We were talking about it. Even the director of the acclaim of Manoj Night Shyamalan, who made Sixth Sense, is now producing Wayward Pines for Fox, and it's being globally broadcast in the month of May. So the issue is there will be many such Netflixes, and there are some so-called Netflixes in this region also. The issue is, do they have the content? And if they have the content, what content? And to me, it is the series that will work on those channels. As simple as that.
Look, from my experience, I've been running online platforms for 14 years, but TVOD and SVOD and now Premium VOD and so on. I totally agree. If you're going to drive a subscription service, it's not movies, it's television. It's television series, it's the box sets, that's what drives it. And the problem is that unless you've got a lot of money, you can't buy HBO or Showtime off from OSN or NBC or whoever, so the big guy's still winning those areas. But it leaves the door open for Netflix just to keep bigger and bigger and bigger.
Absolutely.
Because they can outbuy OSN and NBC, right?
And we're hoping that they're going to raise the level for their competitors as well, just so that so that over the next couple of years we see everyone fighting to stay in the game with bigger and better productions.
Well, I think the winner is the content providers. I think quite clearly, if you own the content, if you can create great content, if people want to watch that content, you are the winner because you've now got more platforms to get it through, and I think people are watching more TV now than they ever have.
Yeah, and when Netflix is buying nowadays, they're buying the whole world. So, what they're doing is, even in territories where they're not players, they're locking up the content. So it's super interesting to look at that strategy, and you watch it all evolve. I mean, Netflix started because there was an emptiness, a void in the market when they just started with the old mail delivery service, and then they realized that they got people there, but then people started leaving. Unless you had kids and you didn't care for the $9.99 a month you used to pay for it, you wouldn't churn. You just kept paying for it. But then they realized they weren't getting as many views, and then they continued to try to they bought more pay TV windows, and then all of a sudden they realized, back to what you said, Sanjay, that series are really important. They're thoroughly engaging. They get people to binge watch, and it's a very successful formula.
I think the problem for, in a way, every conference, every seminar session becomes a discussion about Netflix, which is interesting because this is a disruptor, this is a game changer. But soon, the moment of truth for Netflix and for us in the region will come. And it is what to do with local content. Because up till now, when you say Netflix buys international rights, it's all mostly, if I don't want to generalize, English language. So they can monetize it in the UK, in Australia, in New Zealand. They can't monetize English language content in the region here. It's all about local. I always say, if content is king, quality content is king of kings, and local quality content is king of kings.
You bring up something very interesting. In our Beijing office, we have an output deal with the YE Films. So we get all of their films on a worldwide basis outside of China. And we actually completely agree with you that we think the next wave of growth in these markets is niche content, local language from all over the world, because people are migratory. They're living in different parts of the country, all over the world, and when you log on to whatever digital platform, I would love to see the silos. I would love to see some Latin American products, some Arabic, and you start to think about, so the people I think that can do English language and local language and aggregate are going to be in a really good position.
Well, DirecTV's just done a massive OTT deal,
Yeah.
and AT&T's went and bought DirecTV to get to the content and the OTT rights, and they're launching it first in the Latin market, and they're trying that out, this VOD, SVOD, OTT, linear as well play, which will then change the game for DirecTV and AT&T in the American English-speaking market as well, which will be another game changer there.
Absolutely, and I think the other day, maybe it was a year ago, but Peter Chernan's group bought an online company called Crunchyroll that focuses on Japanese anime, and they spent more than $200 million, right? So it's back to this niche product, and consumers, you see the amount of hours that consumers love to consume across whatever it is, the iPhone, the TV, through some OTT service. So if you can provide something that the customers want and make it easier and a reasonable price, they're absolutely going to migrate to that.
So look, I think we can go way off in the business angle here, right? And the online and all of that. We can continue there. But really, I think the crux of this is still back on the television production, and does it come near film in regards to storylines? And therefore, Alex, you, as a filmmaker, as a TV maker, are you feeling that filmmakers and actors are getting excited about television, and why?
Incredibly so, and it's interesting because when I first started out in the industry, we were making TV. It was very much about feature films, and has been until very recently when we've gone back into episodic and are now working on Netflix's new original series Sense8, for example, where that's one of the most exciting projects that is being made today. That's where it's at. And this is interesting. What we found is that the independent films that we've traditionally worked on, they have come under incredible pressure from episodic. So when the financing process to make an independent film is so much harder, piecing together various different financiers and commissions and the piecemeal financing that you have to get a project off the ground. And when you finally have it off the ground, you're up against incredible pressure to get the project into the cinemas and so on and so forth. For the same kind of budgets that all that work is going into, we have wonderful TV productions in the UK, which I'm sure you've all seen, like Sherlock and Luther, which have incredible production value that actually, competes head-on and wins against pretty much all independent film. Now, I certainly don't think that cinema is dead. I think that the cinema experience will live on, and I think that most filmmakers that we work with, whether they're directors or actors, behind or in front of the camera, share that same view. But what we're seeing is everyone wants to be part of this new revolution and be part of this new way of storytelling, to be able to tell stories in a structure outside the 90 minutes that as you were talking about before.
Sanjay, you mentioned obviously a very famous Hollywood Indian filmmaker who's getting into this. Obviously, there's filmmakers, Scorsese's getting into, obviously, Boardwalk Empire. Yeah. You've got now with the Nick, Soderbergh has directed the Nick and has told everybody, I'm out of film, I'm just staying with TV. You gave us some information about another TV show that you just touched on earlier that's about to come out.
Wayward Pines, which is Manoj Naik Shyamalan's first exposure to television.
So why is he moving, this great filmmaker, why is he moving into television?
And you know what, this is not an answer to be said he likes it or he doesn't like it. Let's go a layer down, and that's where I wanted to not completely disassociate from what happens, but actually bring on what viewers really want to watch today. There is this huge amount of viewing which happens on television for Hollywood content. Let's accept it. Whether it's downloaded, whether it's pirated, whether it's legal, that's what is watched around the world. A lot of that is thanks to what happens in Hollywood and then beyond onto television. The local content that is available on free-to-air networks and is available partly on some pay TV networks. People of the genre, of the level of Night Shyamalan and others realize the fact that with that one show, he cuts across a lot of strata around the world. Now this series is being shown day-date in 124 countries of the world. Now that's insane. We haven't heard that before on the Fox network. So I'm not trying to promote my network, but it will be available on Fox. American studios are now trying to see how best they can block online viewing by such monsters. And there is a whole lot of you will see more Night Shyamalans. Don't be surprised if you see a Spielberg tomorrow, starting a 16-part series and so on and so forth. It's going to come, and it's going to come very well for the consumer. The consumer is going to love it. The consumer is going to love it. There's going to be a lot of anarchy in the American studio system, and it will settle over a period of time. The OTT rights, the online rights, they will generally kind of evolve over a period of time. Currently, huge anarchy time, and good for the consumer, and good for those who have BitTorrents.
Fadi, you said something earlier about, obviously the local market is got a lot of content. It all comes out in one go, pretty much in that Ramadan area. Will the local market pay for television content?
I think
Because that'll obviously make it higher production in some cases.
since I might be harsh, the industry, the media, the TV drama industry here is immature, irrational. It produces more than the market needs. There is a cycle of debts that gets accumulated year on year, and still producers have to keep producing so that they can get their old money by engaging the channels with new projects. It's a never-ending cycle, but it has to do with the fact that, yes, drama is the number one genre of entertainment. It has to do with the fact that there is, how can I put it? When you have irrational players, how can you plan and calculate your cost versus revenue? In different parts of the world, of the Middle East, there will always be projects unsold that is produced. The producer will take risks. It's not like the American or the British. Not everyone starts producing based on a commissioning. So many production companies just produce, and midway through the production, they will take a trailer or rushes and try to sell. Some are lucky, they will sell. Not all will be sold, and so on and so forth. So if I want to give numbers, I think every year there is not less than 150 drama series of 30 episodes produced between Egypt, the Gulf, Lebanon, Syria. But obviously not all are consumed. Some just wait for the year after or the year after, or incomplete. There are series in Egypt which are still incomplete for the last 3 years. It's a mess sometimes. I feel this business is not in a healthy. Who will pay for it? I'll tell you who will pay for it. Those who have managed, starting with NBC, because we started with this. We say Ramadan was so successful that we decided to extend it for another 11 months through the year. There are so much now content, new content, original content, that is starting outside Ramadan. And that's the game changer in the last 2-3 years. You have more windows to air series than just this holy month.
People are still watching TV.
And they need, and there is, without giving specific examples because of the sensitivity of the issue, I represent a player. There are some series that I can call crap, but they will get high ratings outside Ramadan simply because there's no one else airing anything. They have zero competition. First run versus repeats. So the minute you decide it's worth investing outside Ramadan, this opens the door for content to be monetized more than just sticking to Ramadan.
But it's within your control to change the viewing habits throughout the rest of the year, and you can move those.
We've done it.
You can move those people out. But let me come at it from a different angle. Would you produce a series and make it online first under a transaction?
You know what's the problem? The problem is piracy. Because when you put it online, there are two conditions for this experiment to work. That immediately you air it on the broadcasting networks rather than sleep on it, rather than a long online window. Because then the online window becomes a promotional tool for the viewing on a wide screen, which is still more entertaining, more attractive to the eye. But there's the other reason. Anything that, whether online or even pay networks, is and does get pirated. And therefore, when the free-to-air channels gets that content, value has been compromised. So literally, what you're paying as a first run has been seen by millions illegally, and therefore it is devalued. And that's a problem.
I agree. There's lots of DRMs, lots of security, but it seems to be broken at all times, and everything comes to the market, including obviously feature films in different formats. Back to you, Chris. So, give us more about this. Where I'm seeing the heart of this is, the filmmakers are coming across, and they're producing better content. So are the actors are coming across. What are you seeing from the States? Why are they doing this? Is it because they can have flexibility? Is it because there's lots of money? Why?
It's an interesting question. I mean, I think at the core, it's so enriching to be able to, from an actor, to be able to be on a series and play something so deep and rich and be able to really focus on it. It's not that 90-minute feature film. There's something that could go over 13 or 20 episodes. So it's something new and different for them. I think a great example of that is look at True Detective with Matthew McConaughey, right? So he was up getting an Oscar, and all they were talking about was True Detective, and it was just something that they love to be challenged to do something different, and it's also happening from not only the actor and actresses, but from the directors as they want to do something different outside of the mold of a traditional feature film. They're looking to really be bold, to be cutting edge, and to do something different. And because of the online viewing, it enables you to take different risks. It enables you to engage the audience in a different way. And so people are really migrating that way.
Are the traditional American networks being as bold? Like obviously HBO, Showtime, AMC have been breaking this for a long time. And if you really wanted to look back at the BBC in the UK and the European networks, they've been doing it for a lot longer as well. But those pay networks in the States have been really pushing the envelope. Are the major ABC, NBC, CBS changing as well?
It's interesting. We were talking to some agents about that the other day. As a personal viewer myself, as I started to watch these shows as Sons of Anarchy and Breaking Bad, I had no desire to watch network TV. So from a consumer content, the content was not nearly as enthralling. But what's interesting is people are still watching it. So from an ad dollar perspective, it's still pretty significant. So as you were saying earlier, Hollywood doesn't like to be too cutting edge. They like to stay to their old way of thinking. So they'll hold on to their CSI procedural as long as they possibly can, and until they see some shift. And what they're doing now is, right, they're going to the C+7. So they're looking at the on-demand. They're adding the next 7 days of viewing, because they were about to start to cancel shows, but then they realized that people were watching it on demand and then looking at it from that perspective.
But obviously something like CSI or those type of regular TV series, they don't drive transactions. They don't drive someone paying for content. They can make up a collection of SVOD or part of it, but you don't go out of your way to download CSI. Well, at least I don't know many people who do. But you do go out of your way to get True Detective. You do go out of your way to get Boardwalk Empire and so on. Can new TV producers go without traditional broadcast and the advertising revenue stream? Can they do it on transactions alone? Netflix is. Can others do the same?
So you're saying, can another digital platform come to the market in a way that's different than SVOD?
As a TV maker, you're obviously looking at how many networks are going to air my content. They're looking at how many ads I can sell in that, and that's your model, right? But Netflix has changed all that. They've said pay $7.95 a month and you get everything. And I'm going to bring you some really hot stuff that's only on my platform for the couple of seconds that hasn't been stolen. But people are okay with the $7.95 because it's like, that's much cheaper than $100 to my pay TV subscription. And of course, the American market is very different than here because you have to pay for television there, whereas here it's free. But do you see that TV producers can start saying, I'm just going to go in a paid environment, that's it?
I think right now people are definitely focusing on trying to find ways to go to the Netflixes and the digital platforms, mostly because of the economics, right? Because it is the deficit financing. So if, without getting into all the details of that, there's a lot more risk if you're just having a big US license and you don't typically pre-sell in TV, so there's a lot of risk. So people will definitely get involved with the digital platforms because they're trying to buy all the rights, and that way you help mitigate the risk in that. So from that side, people are definitely focusing on that, and as they see the digital platforms continuing to grow, and they're either getting new subscribers or reducing churn, they'll definitely have the budgets to continue to grow original programming. So that will definitely foster an environment where more and more people are going to be targeting those types of programs.
Alex, being a producer, would you look at a transactional environment first, or you just don't care?
The transactional environment, well, I mean, the kind of revenue that you're getting and the kind of budgets that are available today through Netflix and co are incredibly attractive compared to anything else that's out there. Because there's an audience, there's an audience for it, and there's a commissioning process that will take that kind of thing in as well. We're also seeing a streamlined development process. There's less development by committee, but more trust in filmmakers and great ideas, bold ideas, which is incredibly liberating. And all of this is part of the reason why I think top talent is swinging across.
So it's flexibility and more money. Full stop. Is Netflix paying more than the networks?
I think right across the board they're paying very good fees. Also for the films they're picking up, though. They need content. They are going out and surprising people with the kind of fees they're paying occasionally as well.